Hey, Deacon Paul here from Our Lady of the Wayside in Arlington Heights. I wanted to offer up a brief reflection on our gospel reading for today, Matthew chapter 22, verses 15 through 21. And if you recall, this is a reading that deals with Jesus being confronted on whether or not you should pay taxes to Caesar, whether it's lawful. And what I want to do is I want to start the reflection with a brief disclaimer. And the disclaimer is that this reflection is not politically charged. It's not going to be recommending any candidates. I'm not trying to influence your vote or anything like that. I do want to bring up an element of the presidential election process, namely the debates, to kind of bring forth a message from this gospel reading, and to make sure that it hits home. It's relevant for today. So, with that disclaimer, the reflection, it begins with, whether or not you've seen the presidential or vice presidential debate, or any debate for that matter. What are the elements of a debate? You typically have the venue. You have those that are going to be debating, the candidates. You've got a moderator, and also you have, the audience or the attendees. But importantly, you have the questions or the issues to be debated. And these issues often speak to the issues of the time. And the moderator, in asking these questions, really gets at, frames those questions in a way that are, put the person being debated on the spot. And oftentimes the questions don't have a definitive, solid, clear-cut answer. The same is true in our gospel reading today. The Pharisees, disciples, and the Herodians, Herodians, those that belong to King Herod, his soldiers, they try to entrap Jesus in speech. And, the Pharisees' disciples are there to do the tricking, to entrap Jesus. The Herodians are there to actually arrest Jesus, if they catch him in this trap. And they approach Jesus with niceties, refer to him as teacher. But then they get at him with this difficult question, is it lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not? This question puts Jesus on the spot. It's a question that doesn't have a definitive answer to it. For if Jesus advises non-payment of taxes, he speaks against the emperor, which could bring a charge of treason against him and his immediate arrest. If he advises the payment of taxes, he discredits himself among the people for supporting the empire that's oppressive to the Jews. So, Jesus, being fully human and fully divine, he's able to see into the hearts of those that confront him with a question. And understanding they're trying to entrap him, he refers to them as being hypocrites. Refers to them as hypocrites. Yeah. And what we see is that Jesus provides a response that's true in both respects. He doesn't fall for the trap, and he asks them, identifying Caesar's inscription, Caesar's image on the coin, he tells them to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to give to God what belongs to God. And we don't see this in our gospel reading, but shortly thereafter, the Pharisees' disciples and the Herodians are left amazed by Jesus' response, and they go off. Jesus essentially conquers them in his response. So our lessons that Jesus gives us from his response are significant, and they're lasting. First, he tells us that civil transactions are on one level. Not only are we authorized, but we're required to obey the laws of the state. In this case, to pay taxes. He's also telling us that God's rights are on another level, that we are to give to God what belongs to him. Jesus steers between the two extremes in his response, and he provides a response that's true in both respects. We need to give part to some, and then part to the other. Second, Jesus is telling us that we don't test him. We don't test God. We don't influence God, but God influences us. God challenges us. Yeah, so what does he do? The Pharisees, disciples, and the Herodians are hypocritical for testing Jesus. What does Jesus do? He in turn tests them by asking them whose inscription, whose image is on that coin. What belongs to Caesar? Caesar's coins, which bear his image. What belongs to God? We do. Because our body, our soul, our will, because we bear God's image. We are to give to God what belongs to God through our faithful obedience and our religious worship. We don't impose our will on God, but we're influenced. We follow God's will through our conscience, through our center, through the Holy Spirit who speaks to us. So getting back to our example of the debates, the debates are important. The issues are important. Some issues more important than others. We have the debates to understand where the candidates stand on the issues. We also have the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops voter guide to help us form our conscience, to help us prioritize the issues, and to make the best selection possible. But we need to let God's will influence our conscience. For we are God's, and we, all of us, belong to him. God bless.